Good afternoon. Welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. And I'm sure all of you in the comments that are disappointed that we're not live from the Shamrock in Belfast. Unfortunately, you're left with us three stooges who are holding the fort in Greenock, Stirling and Japan. Colin, nice to see you on a Friday. Liam, nice to see you on a Friday. Colin, how are you getting on?
Not too bad. Good to be back after a couple of hectic weeks, but managed to come back and rejoin everyone. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'll let the comments decide, but it's good to be back and see you two anyway.
It's not really been hectic weeks, has it? There's nothing really.
Not on the park, but certainly for myself off it. But it's good to see the transfer window starting to shape up a bit. Basically got 3 in the door already. As much as that sounds as if we've not done much, it's certainly more than I think we've done in recent years. So maybe the idea that we're going to have to qualify is getting the cogs turning a bit quicker this year.
Who's the three?
Tierney, the boy from Fulham, and Negrin.
Right, so is Negrin a done deal? Has he been pictured with a scarf above his face or that yet? No.
Neil's the boy from Fulham, but the understanding I've got is that he's on his way to Glasgow this weekend for a medical and will be paraded next week.
Well, I think I'm just having a look at the BBC gossip page there, and it says that he was at the Celtic training ground yesterday.
Is that not the boy from Fulham? I tell you, it's all happening so quick.
Oh, sorry, I'm confused. Negrin's the Swedish guy. The boy from Fulham was at the training ground yesterday. Similar, according to the Herald, subscription required, as the BBC gossip page tells me.
Unless you disable JavaScript, which I definitely wouldn't do because that's immoral, but you can do that if you don't want to pay a subscription fee.
If somebody wants to put into the comments how to do that or message me after this, then I'm more than happy to actually be on board with that. Liam, what's it like in Japan today? It's a bit hot here. My hay fever's absolutely nipping, so my eyes look like pea holes in the snow. But how was it like in Japan?
Oof, I am sweating like a Rangers supporter waiting on his sister's pregnancy test. It is really, really hot here. It's 34 degrees today, and it's going to be about the same tomorrow. So yeah, it is very, very hot here. But I've got the colours on. This is Daizen's old club, Matsumoto Yamaga. Back when he played for them a few years ago, they wore a version of the hoops. So I thought we'll get that on for today.
I'm expecting a Rangers statement about 5-4 the day after Liam's comment there.
$3,000 fine coming my way.
You and Tom Boyd are going to be on the naughty list.
They've said they're listening to the TV channels of the teams now. First of all, they're going to need to prove they've bought a subscription. Otherwise, I think the people at the IPTV police might be all over that as well, to be fair.
Aye, their email addresses.
Talking about that, right? Last season there was a couple of games where we were playing the Saturday and they were playing the Sunday. And I've got a mate who's a blue nose, right? And he actually says to me, "Look, me and the wife are away on holiday for a couple of weeks. Do you want my login so you can watch the Rangers game?" And I was like, "If there's nothing else today, all right. I'm not paying for it now. I'll watch it." So I watched a couple of their games. And the funniest thing, if you watch their Rangers TV, right? It's like, obviously, same as Celtic TV, only broadcast outside the UK and Ireland, whatever, right? But every ad is for like NordVPN. It's constant ads for VPNs. They have to say, like, if you're going to get a subscription, this is how you could maybe do it,
I do laugh. There's a few fan sites that I watch, and they're sponsored by NordVPN as well. And the guys that are on it are quite clear. They say, if you want to watch something at 3:00 and you haven't got access to it, NordVPN comes in handy. and they're completely open about it of what they're actually doing. Or if you want to watch an American TV series which has not been released yet, NordVPN can help you with this.
And if NordVPN are listening, they can definitely sponsor Acsom in the near future.
Yes.
Well, we've just gave them free advertising there.
And if you could specifically tell me how to get around Celtic TV's firewall, that would be much appreciated.
how we can get round Celtic TV working would probably would probably be the best thing to start off with. I mentioned the Rangers statement in that there, but I found it quite unusual that they were obviously making a sly reference to Tom Boyd, who in 2019 caused a big hoo-ha when he made the comment when we were denied a Stonewall penalty against Dunfermline that John Beaton would have gave it up the other end and he would be welcomed in the pub that night. So that was just after John Beaton's infamous photograph. So it's quite obvious that's what Rangers were meaning when they say other official channels have made comments like that previously. Now, Tom Boyd's comments are pale compared to what John Brown says. I mean, Tom Boyd made a reference to a sort of joke. He'll be welcomed in the pub tonight. He didn't actually call anybody corrupt. So for them to actually try and bring that up in their statement and as part of their defence yesterday, which always seems to be their defence, aye, we did it, but somebody else has done it first. So that seems to be the mainstay of their defence anytime they're in front of the SFA.
Kev, it's like you're listening to or you're watching club TV, you're always going to get a biased input, whether it be Rob McLean at Aberdeen, whether it be Tom Boyd at Celtic, whether it be whoever it is. I mean, Irvin Welsh said
I was the next
something much worse on Hibs TV, right? You're always going to get it. And I think the charge is completely ludicrous. I mean, it's like saying you're watching state-run TV and don't like what's said on it. There's an agenda ridden everywhere, no matter how it is. It's set up to cater to the audience that's watching the game. They're expecting it to be fans of their team watching the game, and that's what they think their fans want to hear. And it's the same with Tom Boyd, and it's the same with whoever else. For the SFA to come into it and the fine and the charge, it's ludicrous. There's far more important matters in Scottish football that need to be dealt with. Never mind what Bomber Brown or Tom Boyd or Irvin Welsh has to say on a pay-per-view television. Let's get maybe down to the fact that the Scottish football deal is at that stage where we have to listen to these people because there's no other option to watch these games, and that's probably more important than what they've actually said.
As I think it was just nonsense anyway. As you say, I've had the unfortunate pleasure of watching some club TV at times, especially when they've been playing against Celtic, and I'm wondering what game are you actually watching here? And as you say, it's fans TV. What do you expect? But John Brown's comments did go over a line in the SFA. And I'm surprised.
The fact that Rangers TV stopped uploading their summaries on YouTube because so many Celtic fans were taking the piss out of them.
I know that's
used to do like a 2-minute sort of a summary of the game, but they stopped doing it just because of all the mockery they were getting.
I definitely. It's just them pandering to the horde and their support once again. Right, let's get on. Let's get on. I've had my fill of talking about the SFA and them. Fixtures came out this morning. The first 5 games are St Mirren at home, Aberdeen away, Livingston at home, Rangers away, and Kilmarnock away. Tough start, Liam, eh?
Aye, I mean it's no Queen's Park, but it's a few tough fixtures in there. Look, we go a fairly easy run at it at the start of last season, so I figured we were going to get it slightly more difficult this season, and I think still we win those games. We're set up well for the rest of the campaign, I think.
As you say, as Alan Morrison and Jim in our group chat rightly pointed out, the way that these fixtures work, that they look at who was in the top 6, and if you play Aberdeen at home last season, you play them away first this season. That's the way it works. So there's no sort of random fixture generated anymore, so it's planned. So if you were that way inclined, Colin, you could have probably worked out where you were going to play in the first 11 games of the season. I'm not that way inclined, and I can't really be bored to kind of work that out. That's too much work for my sort of brain cell. I just saw the fixtures coming out and went, well, that's a tough run of 5 games to actually start off with. And again, we're going to need to be up for that. And the good thing is we've only got we've got 2 European qualifiers in there as well. 2 European ties for 1 qualifier in there as well. So we need to hit the ground running here. We really do.
Definitely, and we'll touch on the European bit in a minute, because there's been a new rule introduced this year that's worth discussing as well. But I'll throw the question out: when's the last time Celtic opened at home to St Mirren?
I'm thinking early 2000s. Like 2003, 2004, something like that.
I'll give you a clue. It's later than that. Later than 2003.
Okay.
Was it not just a couple of seasons?
I had it down as 2008. Gordon Strachan's last appearance, last season in charge. The 08-09 season, where Barry Robson, I believe, scored a penalty in a 1-0 victory. That's what I had it down as. Now, I might be wrong, but I was as far back as I could go back and see. So it's a long time since we've opened, if that's right, a long time since we've opened the campaign at home to St Mirren. Having said that, the omens are not good if that's the case. We went on to lose that title that year. But you're saying that like it's a random generator for certain things, and it's a top 6 for other fixtures. The inconsistencies in that, Kev, is crazy. I thought we'd end up at home to. We always seem to be at home to Kilmarnock or Aberdeen. That's the way it's been the last couple of seasons. But on the fixtures there, you're talking about the 3 out of the 5 away from home, and the European fixtures stuck in between there. The SFA came out a couple of months ago and confirmed that anybody that's in the UEFA playoff round can cancel their 3rd fixture of the season. And I believe for us, is that an away tie, Kev? You've got
Livingston at home.
Yeah, sorry, Livingston at home. We can cancel that without Livingston having to approve it to prepare for the UEFA playoff round. So there's a way that it looks out that if all the Scottish teams make the UEFA playoff round, there'll only be 1 game actually on that weekend, because the 5 teams can postpone that 3rd game, and Dundee United and Aberdeen, I think, play each other or something like that. So
right,
it would be interesting to see if Celtic do that. Now, home to Livingston, you're thinking it's not a relatively hard game, but just those extra days of training and preparation, I think, will be vital. And we've been calling out for this for a number of years, Kev, for teams to be given a proper chance to qualify for the big tournament. I don't know what you think yourself, but for me, it's a case of weighing up the balance between having to fit that game in and what will be an already very tight schedule between that tie and Christmas, and being prepared for the knockout tie.
What I'll probably say is Celtic will only cancel it because it's Saturday 3 o'clock, and there's a money factor coming in here. You'll get more on a Saturday 3 o'clock if you move than what you would do if you move the Livingston's game to a Wednesday night in December. That's just my take on it.
Do you think? Obviously, you've said Celtic won't do it. Rangers are away to St Mirren. If Rangers make a playoff round, I can almost put any money I've got on that they'll cancel that tie. And I think in terms of money, it's been prudent to weigh up the difference between the revenue you get for a Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff and the revenue you get for qualifying for the Champions League.
I don't think we'll do it. I really don't think we'll actually cancel that game. Other clubs might, as you said, Aberdeen, man. Aberdeen against Dundee United might be one to actually get cancelled, but I can't see Celtic cancelling a game that early in the season for the Champions League playoff. There's 2 ways to look at this, Liam. You could say you might have new signings in the team. I'm kidding myself on there, actually coming out with that statement there. We might be trying to get players up to speed and get a bit of fluidity at that point, or there's two ways to actually look at that. Some clubs might have a look at it, they want more time to prepare. Other clubs might have a look at it, they actually want to have a competitive game before it, Liam.
Aye.
Depending on the squad size as well.
If you look at most of our big European games last season, if we've had a game the weekend before, Brendan's generally treated it as a sort of tune-up ahead of the game, and he's played as close to the starting lineup for the following midweek game as he could. So I would see Livingston as a sort of a dress rehearsal for whoever we're playing that following midweek. So I think he would want to play the game to get his team in the right setup ahead of the European tie.
Also, it's Livingston, and the ball will only be in play for about 21 minutes during the 90 anyway, as their goalkeeper takes 4.5 minutes to take by kicks. So hopefully we would get that game done, and then we could look forward to the champion. I can't see it. I didn't know that we could actually cancel the games. It's going to be really interesting to see if any Scottish teams decide to cancel those games before the playoff rounds.
I agree with Colin. No, Rangers will, because they're genuinely fear of dropping points early in the season, I think. So they would want to focus everything on the European adventure, which could easily be done by September if Panathinaikos do the job, you know.
But then again, Dick Avocado maybe wants to get his team up to speed by that point, So you don't know. I'm not bored what they do anyway. I don't think we'll cancel it, Colin.
For me, I think because it's only Livingston, and you say that in such a dismissive manner, but a home tie against Livingston, 99 times out of 100, you should win that game and win it fairly comfortably. Obviously, we've had some slip-ups against them in the past. I'm thinking back to Giacomakis' last-minute penalty that he missed. But if it was a harder game, if it was maybe away at Pittodrie, away at Tynecastle, away at Ibrox, something like that, I could have seen Celtic definitely postponing that and moving it to a later date. But the home to Livingston, I think they'll probably let that one go. But it's one to keep an eye on, especially for all the ones travelling over from Ireland, because I don't know when the deadline is that they've got to cancel it, but you just got to keep an eye on the fixtures. Something like that could happen at short notice, and as good as it is for the players potentially, it's going to have an impact on the fan base.
Yeah, it is. That's why I don't think they'll cancel it. I think they'll take the Saturday 3:00. No, if it was a potential Sunday at 12:30 or something like that, then I think they would cancel it. But the fact is that it's a home game, a Saturday 3:00. I think it'll go ahead. They won't even think about cancelling it, just because the financial aspect and the fans aspect. If they wanted to cancel one game, can they cancel the Dundee game in the midweek in December, because that's my 50th birthday? And it's already going to cause a domestic if I'm going to need to go to Celtic Park on a Wednesday night to watch us against Dundee on my 50th birthday. So
surely that's a hospitality birthday present incoming, Kev.
Not against Dundee. Come on. Could have not made it someday better.
Do you know, one and only time I've been in the corporate boxes at Celtic Park was a game against Dundee. My dad and I were guests of Brian Dempsey, and we get beat 2-0. I'm like, I'm never doing this again.
But that was the first fix. That was one of the. I always look at the December fixtures, because especially when you've got kids and family and that, you have to have kind of work out what's going on. And when I saw that, I went, "You're kidding me on? Are they lining me up for a divorce here? They really lining me up for a divorce? But on my 50th birthday, we're playing Dundee at home." I'm going to bring up some of the comments here. Rab McNair does point out the new rule says the keeper can only have the ball for 8 seconds before the ref awards a corner at the opposition. Well, that's no point to us, because we didn't score for corner kicks anyway. So they may as well allow the keeper to hold the ball. Hopefully that helps. I mean, this 45 seconds to actually take by kicks in that, Collins, just...
I saw that in action the other night in the I think I'm the only one that's watching that Club World Cup right now, going by the attendances in the stadium. But I saw that it came into action the other night, and I think it's going to be one of those ones that's going to take a bit to iron it out. Remember when they changed the handball rule, Kevin? Everything became a penalty, and the amount of penalties that was coming up after they changed the rule on that a couple of seasons ago was crazy, to the point of, was it Johnston that got one for a handball where he had his hand in the air but he was looking the other way and all that, and it sort of skiffed off him.
There was an Iwata one as well, I seem to remember, where I think it was against Hart, where he was literally going one way and the ball was going the other, and it just glanced off his horn. There was nothing they could do about it. Yep.
I think it's going to be one of those ones where everybody's going to be focused on this 8 seconds, and then see become Christmas and January, it's going to become, oh, well, the ref's got the dispensation to say when the 8 seconds starts and all that, and it will not make
that was going to difference. That was going to be my question there. When does the 8 seconds start, though?
Yep.
When does the 8 seconds start? And that's up to the referee's discretion, like when that actually starts. You could have the laugh of the crowd counting.
It's as if it's like it's either the boxing or the wrestling, like the Royal Rumble, when the numbers flash up on the screen.
Let's go full American. Let's have like a countdown clock when the goalkeeper gets the ball and it just starts counting down, and a bit of entertainment on a cold
Wednesday
night.
Once it hits 0, pyros go up at the Green Brigade.
The lights go down, and as they come back up, it's Bio. He's re-signed. He's on the halfway line again.
Then we get the corner kick and it hits the first man, and the countdown was the best bit of that period of the game. Once again, what's annoyed me about that Club World Cup, among a load of things that's annoyed me about that Club World Cup, is see when they have the water breaks, they didn't stop the clock. That really annoys me. I mean, they're pre-scheduled water breaks after about 22 minutes. Mm-hmm. So when the referee blows for that water break, the clock should get stopped. It really should.
If you just think about it from the customer's point of view, you're paying, apparently hundreds of dollars for a ticket. You're genuinely being deprived of about 5 minutes of football there that you've paid for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you see the game last night? Palmeiras versus... who was Palmeiras playing last night? I can't remember who they were playing. The game got postponed, postponed after 60 odd minutes because there was potential lightning in the area. The game was played at MetLife Stadium yesterday.
Right.
And they were inside for an hour because they had this idea that there was going to be a thunder and lightning storm, and the players were in. And then they came back onto the pitch on the 63rd minute or something like that. On the 71st minute, they had a water break. they'd been inside for an hour, and they came back on the pitch for 8 minutes and had a water break. Crazy.
Also, I love the fact that it's a lightning storm risk, so that the 22 players must be kept safe, but the 60,000 fans outside, they'll be fine. They bother,
Liam, that's an exaggeration. I don't think we've seen 60,000 at a stadium yet.
No,
I think a zero off that probably.
I noticed PSG got beat last night, but it was a quote from the Botafogo coach before the game that I noticed when I was reading about it this morning. When they were asking him, are you going to beat PSG? And he went, well, the cemetery of football is full of favourites. I went, how poetic is that? That's what the coach says in the interview before Botafogo beat PSG last night. And I went, how true is that? I went, that is a superb quote. That's a superb quote.
Next season in the Champions League, he's going to come out after a game and tell you that one as well. That's right in the Rodgers notebook.
It's a cracker. When I read it, I went, oh, that guy's thought about that. That boy's like really teed that up. But have you got a chance of beating PSG, big man? No, but the cemetery of football, it's full of favourites. There you go. Take that one to the bank, mate. Pete McGee comes in again. The 8 second countdown won't only start if the keeper has been impeded by the opposition. It'll only start when the keeper is free to release the ball. It's not going to stop the problem when folk are taking 45 seconds to take a bye kick. But it should. There should be a rule about that as well, brung in, that they've got a certain amount of time to actually take a bye kick or a throw in or something like that. I'm going to have a look at a couple other comments. Jack the Cat, when Paul John isn't on, it's amateur hour. Big man, that's an insult to amateurs. I'm very, very sorry, but that is a real insult to amateurs.
There's amateurs out there putting far more effort than we do.
I know. Ewan Boy Martin is in the Shamrock just now with Paddy Laverty. Sitting with Paddy the now drinking a lovely Guinness. The big man's making me jealous.
Right now.
And Jungle Lion comes in, he says there's a good Acsom crew in Belfast today. I wished I was in the North of Ireland with them today, but I'm not, because I'll tell you what actually happened a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about it. PJ told me it was a Saturday night and I didn't bother to get the day off my work, and he didn't tell me this week it was actually Friday. So there you go. That's what actually happened. Chuck him under the bus there. I'm going to chuck him from right under the bus there. What's actually going on? That Club World Cup's strange. I'm just going to go back to it because has anybody else seen anything as strange in football as the Juventus team with Trump?
That was funny.
That was the most bizarrest moment I think I've ever seen, and how McKinney and Timothy Weah actually looked so uncomfortable with Trump shaking their hands. I just found that. I think that just sums up the actual farce of this tournament.
The idea of keeping politics out of football until it suits them. It's UEFA and FIFA do this all the time. It's only politics when it's not their politics, and that's the way it goes. If obviously America's hosting the tournament, they're getting to meet the president, whatever. If it suits them, it suits them. But you could tell those players didn't want to be there. We shouldn't be doing stuff like that. It's pointless.
They're probably scared of getting deported. Christ, the way Trump's behaving now, shake the guy's hand, I might be taken away and never seen again.
Didn't eat any tackles. If you eat more than 2 tackles, ice come and kick down your door.
You know the thing is though, Kev, I mean, I'll move on from the Club World Cup in a second, but this tournament is going to take place every 4 years. The teams that are qualified for it.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I read yesterday that they reckon that the reason Inzaghi's took the El Ali job, is that right?
Yeah.
Is because this tournament's going to be every 2 years.
See, this is going to be a major problem for all of club football. It's going to burn out club football altogether because you've got the idea that you've got the Euros every 2 years, the World Cup the World Cup and Euros rotate sort of 2 year on, 2 year off sort of thing. Then you've got this, then you've got the extended Champions League, then you've got all these friendlies. Man United flying halfway around the world to generate £8 million, so they've got friendlies. Then Celtic's going to be going to Como. We've been to America in the last couple of years. We've been to Japan. We've been to Australia. How are you actually meant to develop in pre-season? How are you meant to put a squad together? Pre-seasons are starting earlier and earlier now. The time off that you're getting is just not there. We're not going to see the same standard of football across club football going forward if we continue to put these players into the ground with the work that we're doing. I'm excited about Celtic's pre-season, the idea that they're going to Como for that tournament. That'll be interesting. Playing the game in Portugal, then a couple of games back here in Scotland. We've obviously got the qualifier. But the season literally finished about 3.5, 4 weeks ago, and there's no winter break.
Aye.
So guys are not going to make it to 34, 35 now and be able to play at the top level if they're continuing to play this amount of games a season.
That's even with the number of games getting up to in Europe, Liam, as well. I mean, we're currently at 8. It will go to 10 in 2 years' time. That's without doubt. There's going to be 10 games, and at least the Champions League and the Europa League. I'm not 100% sure about the conference if that will go up to 10 as well. So there is going to be 10 games there. This tournament looks like it is here to stay for a select few. But football is now becoming a 12-month game for especially the top players, the elite players, the players that represent their country, international duty in that as well. I mean, no international friendlies the other week there were just a waste of time, proven by the fact that Scotland couldn't get a goalkeeper, and they had to actually find out which goalkeeper wasn't on holiday, which could qualify for the Scottish national side and call him up.
That's the worst bit, Kev. He was.
Was he on holiday?
That's another potential signing, by the way. We can talk about that with Ross Doohan coming in as the third choice goalkeeper. But he said the other day he was on holiday in Turkey and managed to get a flight to, was it Liechtenstein they were playing? Managed to get a flight there to join in as part of the squad. Just came away from his holidays.
His wife would be happy about that, eh? Or his girlfriend.
The thing is with all this, with these different fixtures piling up, I don't agree with this, but I think this is inevitable. The way it's going to go is you're going to have like the sort of American NFL sort of ice hockey NHL kind of thing with like the rotating squad. Like basically, you have a 25-man squad that will play a 90-minute game, and it'll just be constant rolling subs. That's the only way. Because if we're going to play like 3 or 4 games a week, which is what we're probably heading for, that's the only way it's going to work.
As Roger spoke about this, and I can't remember 100% what he was actually saying. He was talking about we need the winter break because this football is becoming a 12-month game, and there's going to be times where you will see players getting time off during the season. You'll see players with clubs going, right, we're getting into this point, we've got this number of games, you've maybe got 8-9 days between a cup tie or a league, and you will see players going, right, you're getting a few days off. And truthfully, Colin, you may be able to say if this is right. I reckon the Celtic players got quite a lot of time off after the league was won. You
say quite a lot. They got a couple of days off, yeah.
But then
that in the term of the grand scheme of things is probably a lot of time off at the minute.
But then it was like they got a couple of days off after they won the league at Tannadice, but then the following week and every week towards the end of the season, you actually saw players that they weren't turning up for training until the Wednesday or the Thursday. There seemed to have been a lack of intensity for the moment that we won the league, especially with the training. And I don't know if obviously you can say, well, that didn't work when you actually look at the performances towards the end of the season and the cup final, Liam. And also as well, this is something that really annoyed me as well. Sorry, I'm going to have a rant here. This is something that really annoyed me as well. We're in the lead up to a Scottish Cup final, and we've got our players doing PR duties left, right, and centre in Ireland, in shops, promoting kits or Britain in Glasgow and Ireland and stuff like that, filming stupid podcasts, doing stuff with the media team. No, you're in the lead up to a cup final. That's what you should be doing. You shouldn't be doing any PR duties at that point.
Launching a new kit when the old kit isn't even finished yet is just a farce. The new home shirt should not have been launched until maybe next month, because that's the first time the team are going to wear it.
We've all seen it anyway. And the kit launch was half-assed. if you want to.
Do you know what? There's a comment in the chat I just want to bring up, Kev.
Aye.
You may be able to find it yourself. Johnny Ryan saying they're playing football, not down a pit, for goodness sake. For this excuse of players, and people say, well, they're paid this amount of money, they're paid that amount of money, they're only playing football for 90 minutes. They're not just doing that. They are 24-hour athletes. People that are down the pit will have their roll in the morning, they'll have their lunch, they'll go home, they'll have whatever they have, they'll have a couple of drinks, they do it, and fair play to them. Paul said before his dad was a pit worker. All the boys that have worked in the shipyards down here, all the people that do whatever they do now, you can afford to have that one day where you go, do you know what, I'm just going to have a chippy, or I'm going to have that, or I'm going to have whatever. These guys are literally 24 hours. Everything's been monitored. Everything's been sort of tracked. They do not have a minute to literally let steam go. And when they're getting these 2 or 3 days off, you see what happened to Adam Eder earlier in the season when he had that one night off. He went out. He's been monitored 24/7. There's cameras on him everywhere. He's not got the chance to sort of let any steam off. It's ridiculous, the focus on this.
That's why he hides when he's on the football park.
Well, the players need a break. You're not going to get the professionalism and you're not going to get the standard. Everybody's saying football's not as good as it used to be. Because you're making them play about 30, 40 games a season. It's never going to be that good. We have to get into this routine where there's maybe too much football.
There is too much football, and for me, that's a dinosaur argument. They're no doing the pit, they're no doing this, they're no doing that, they're no tarring roads, they're no ploughing a field. It's an argument that doesn't stand up to any sort of scrutiny whatsoever. And as Maestro, no, I'm not even bringing that up. No, it doesn't stand up to any sort of scrutiny whatsoever. They do a job which is physically and mentally tough, and it's something that we will never know what it's like on their body and their minds, because we were never good enough to actually play football and get to that level. So this say either no work and doing a pit, it just builds up the image of them being like comfy lifestyles, and the Instagram lifestyles that they put across with the £700 toilet bags and rubbish like that, the £200,000 motors earning the £350,000 a week. It's just a load of rubbish argument to say that these boys haven't got mentally and are not mentally stressed and physically stressed. Get what I mean? I detest that argument, because it doesn't stand up. There's no balance and checks, and it doesn't stand up to any sort of scrutiny whatsoever, Liam.
I mean, extreme examples here, right? And this is not intended in any way to be offensive, but it's a fact, right? Extreme training is involved in playing football, right? Footballers have to train to such a level of fitness that there are some people who physically it will overload their bodies, right? Mark Vivian Foe, Phil O'Donnell, our own Phil O'Donnell, right? Two guys who passed long before their time because they were professional footballers and because it took such a toll on their bodies. So, you know, to me, that's the same as like people who get black lung because they worked in a pit for 40 years, right? Football has casualties as well. It's a very physically draining thing. And it can sometimes be very dangerous for certain people if they've got certain vulnerabilities in their body they don't know about.
Is that, and that's another reason why we have to have a look at the welfare of players. And it's meant to be an entertainment, even though we've got more emotional attachment to it. It is meant to be an entertainment. We watch games. We watch games that we're not emotionally involved in for an entertainment factor. We do. We want to watch a good game of football, or we want to have a laugh at other teams trying to play football. And when you get to this point where you're watching games in a tournament with these boys whose season's only finished a couple of weeks ago, and you're going like that, nah, these guys are knackered. How much? Look at the teams that are in this Club World Cup. What are they going to be like at the start of the season? Are Chelsea and Man City going to be burned out by the time they get to December? Not that I'm bothered if both of them are burnt out, but they could well be. You could have football players it's an entertainment, it's a brand. You're going to have you're going to burn the players out. But didn't get me wrong, as somebody's actually pointed out, if we were invited to the Club World Cup, we would be there with bells on. And
definitely, and do you know, I can see people in the comments disagreeing with us, and do you know what, it's your own opinion, and nobody's saying that football is the hardest thing in the world. There's people that go through a lot more strenuous activities or go through a lot and care for people, and it takes a lot out of them physically and mentally. I completely understand that, and I respect everybody that does stuff like that. But to sit here and think that being a footballer isn't a hard job is quite silly, actually. To sit there and think, do you know what? We pay our money, we can tell them that they must be fit, they must be there 100% of the time, they must do this, they must do that. The football, we're just playing too much football. That's the problem. It's football fatigue. That's all it is. People saying, oh, they only play 90 minutes every few days. It's not. You get the training on top of that and everything else. We'll never understand it, as you say, Kev, because we've never been fortunate enough to be as good as a professional footballer. And you can see it, in my opinion, the best person to look at as an example of this is Luke McCowan. Luke McCowan, when he was at Dundee, was only playing the 1 day a week, and he was training the rest and whatnot. And he was interviewed and asked why he wasn't having as much of an impact on the Celtic squad as he did, and he thought he might have done. And he says, well, we've got to get up to that level. You've got to become that 24-hour professional. You've got to bring on the leaps and bounds. And for me, I think you'll see a progress in guys like Ida and Engels this year. Guys that have come on and now are trying to live with the demand of playing 45, 50 games a season, having that whole pre-season under them. This is the point that I'm making. You got this sort of 3 or 4 weeks where you maybe got meaningless games and friendlies where you can rotate the squad, you can bring them in. And then when you get to the first day of the season, on the 4th or the 3rd of August, whenever it may be, from that point onwards, it's basically 2 games a week for the next 7-8 months. And then any other tournaments after that, like international games, like these meaningless friendlies where we're flying around the world, it all takes its toll on the player. So you're not getting 100% of that player for the whole season. It used to be you'd get a couple of cup games, a couple of European games, you get the 3 weeks off or 2 weeks off during the January window, and then you'd see the development in that Celtic squad from the one that went into the January break to the one that came back out of it. We always found that next level to kick on after we had the winter break to go and see out the season. The last couple of years where there hasn't been the winter break, we've just never took that momentum. We've not had that momentum. This season was probably the worst. With the Bayern game excluded, some of the football in the second half of the season was really difficult to watch because the players were completely burnt out from putting in 90 minutes a couple of times a week.
I don't think we can argue with that, Liam, that Munich, and I says it after the cup final, it was quite clear for Munich that a lot of the players had switched off. And the performances weren't there. I'm just going to, I will continue. Rob comes in again. That's not true. Most of the season have a reduced training schedule due to play 3 games a week. That's fine. If they're playing the 3 games a week, understand you've got the recovery days and this and that. But what I'm actually talking about is players getting given time off when you're building up to a cup final and they're getting 2 or 3 days off before a cup final after playing 1 game a week for the previous 8 weeks. I think Celtic got the balance wrong, and I think that was shown in the performances. It's a balancing act, Liam, though. The club,
it's as much a mental health as it is a physical health aspect as well, though. Because, you get those 2 or 3 days off. If you get a cup final next week, there's no way you can switch off. No way. That's going to be burrowing through your head the entire time. And that is very, very tiring, right? I'm not ashamed to say I've got mental health issues. And believe me, there are days when you wake up and you just think, I can't be bothered doing anything today. And it's not because I'm lazy. It's not because I'm work shy. It's not because I haven't worked in a pit. It's because the fucking chemicals in my brain don't work properly, right? And some people are like that. Some footballers are like that. And I think we all just need to take a step back and say, these are human beings. They get tired. They get mentally fatigued. Our whole team was basically knackered from about March onwards, let's be honest.
See, there's a point, some people in the comments are saying, well, this just comes down to squad management and squad rotation and look at the depth of the squad that we've got. We never utilised that at all this year. We never utilised it at all. We had an example of almost playing Rio Hatate in every single game this season, and if it wasn't for the injury in the game up at Pittodrie, he would have played every single game. So we're not rotating the squads. We're looking at someone like Kieran Tierney coming back in who's had his injuries in the past. And at the minute, our backup is young Matthew Anderson, who's never kicked a ball for us. He's played professional football, but he's never done it for us. We don't have the squad rotation options there. This is why this part of the season is important to have not just a big squad, but a squad that you can rely upon. Because there was too much of a drop-off at times between what was our first 11 and who was coming on to replace them. And that's why you see this window, we're looking at guys like Negrin, we're looking at guys like Balakishwa, players like that are looking to come in. We need them to be quality players. That's why, and Liam, you might be able to tell us otherwise, but the idea of bringing this boy in from Japan, for me, if he's a squad option, if he's a development option, we're not in that position that we can do that right now. We need guys that can come in, and just because we've got a Cameron Carter-Vickers there, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't bring in someone who's as good as, if not better than Carter-Vickers, to bring the squad on, and not just have somebody that can sit on the bench and we use them for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. No, I mean, the thing is about Inamura, this guy that's coming in for Japan, he's got the capability to fill in a couple of different positions. So that's where, I still think if we're going to get into the Japanese market, we should be going for Kota Takai. That's the guy we should be going for. But we've probably missed the boat on that one because he's probably going to go to Italy or Germany now for a fee that's well out of our league. And it's a shame because we could have got him in January for, probably about the same as we're going to pay for Inamura, who has got potential, but at the moment is not as good a player. But no, he's a decent player, and I think he will be a good addition to the squad, but he is there as backup for Kieran Tierney and Liam Scales. That's the reality of it.
That gives me the fear that he's a backup for Liam Scales, because Liam Scales shouldn't be good enough to be classed as a first-choice option for Celtic. We should be
that's largely because Trusty hasn't shown what he should have recently.
Agreed. Yeah. The idea of us going into the season, Kev, with Carter-Vickers and one of Trusty and Scales shouldn't be acceptable, not for the money that we've got in the bank, not for the options that is out there. We need to be signing players that are first-team ready. We need a first-choice centre-back. We need at least one other midfielder that can come in to make an impact right away, if not two, depending on who leaves. We need the boy Negrin, as I say, that looks if it's done, to come in and be that option on the wing whilst Jota's out, whilst it looks as if Maeda's going to be a guy through the middle. We need these people to be first choice. We should be looking at guys like Lennon Miller, who could come in and start for Celtic right away. Not guys like, and no offence to him, but Inamura is not someone that's going to come in and make a huge difference to our squad right away.
I mean, it's hard to argue with that, but he could. He could come in and make a difference. But at the moment, I honestly don't know. I've not seen enough of him. And he's only played 33 games for the Albirex first team. So you can't... Celtic are taking a gamble here. It could be another Kyogo. It could be another Kobayashi. It's one of them. It's a gamble, but it's probably a very cheap gamble, I would guess.
I think, Liam, the difference with that, though, is when Kyogo came in, he was first choice at his team. He was scoring goals. He was getting the praise. Yeah, he was a full international. He was getting the praise from Andres Iniesta, who, if you're wanting praise off anybody, you want someone as good as that to praise you. He was just one that sort of slipped under the radar. This doesn't look like someone that's slipping under the radar.
No, it really has surprised me that this is a player that Celtic have gone for, because I could rhyme off 5 or 6 players in Japan in similar positions that I think are better, if I'm being honest. There's potential in Inamura, but that's all there is at the moment, potential.
I think I'm going to bring up some of the comments, and I'm going to go back to this, because I think the players that we have been linked with, for me, point to a maybe bigger issue here. Pat Dolan comes in, he says the players need time to recover. They do need time to recover, Pat, but I think there's a time to recover and there's a time to get them ready to go. And I think we actually got the balance wrong towards the end. Towards the end of the season. And we're talking about no flogging the players to death, but as Pat Dolan comes back in and says, if I can find his comment again, I think this is it. We've been almost entirely rotten throughout 2025. Easy to switch off and not easy to switch on. That's what I'm talking about. I think there was a mental drop off, in which Derek points out here where Hibs knackered, where Murn knackered. Didn't agree with many of the opinions expressed today. I didn't care if he's talking about us more than likely or in the comments. Yes, but we played more games than Hibs and more games than St Mirren, but I think there was a mental drop-off rather than a physical drop-off. And if you drop that 20-30%, it's very, very difficult for us to get it picked back up. And that's what happened to us towards the end of the season. Double Denim comes in and tells us that Belfast is stunning today. Thank you very much. I hope your journey across it was actually fine. Ali G75, today is a tough listen. Too right, you should be trying to host it. And Plunge McNugget agrees with me. Football players are no hosting a podcast, which is far harder than being a football player. I will tell you that just now. Right. I think the players that we've been linked with, where they are in the market, points to Brendan Rodgers no staying after next year. I think every one of them is a project player. Every one of them is going to take time to settle in. And apart from Tierney, who's box ready, every one of these players point to the club doing what the club do and not going for the manager's top quality. Liam.
I'm undecided about that. What I would say is that I think at the moment what you're seeing is a lot of people hedging their bets. The board are not going to go all in because they're not sure what Rodgers wants to do. And Rodgers is not committing because he's not sure that the board are going to put the money up. So, we're unearthing good players. Look, Nugren's a great player, right? Mm-hmm. That is a great signing. For 1.7 million, if we get that deal over the line, that is an absolute bargain. That is a Champions League level player that we're getting.
He doesn't fit Rodgers 4-3-3 though.
Well, that's up to the manager. That's on him.
He's made a number 10. He's made where you actually see. I will go with Alan Morrison on this. He's not a wide player.
I see what you mean. For me, he looks a lot like and plays a lot like Mohamed El-Enoussi. And sometimes I think we've missed that in our team. That we've got someone that can sort of...
You just want me to say his name.
Well, El-Enoussi? Go on, kid.
El-Enoussi. Of course I'm going to call him that.
But I think you need someone like that can not just take a man on and get down the line and cross the ball in, but can go through the middle and actually break through the defences, because too many times you came up against a low block last year, and when the ball went out wide, it was just aimless crosses into whoever it may be in the middle, and we really struggled from it. So having someone that can actually get through a defence is probably key. And Liam, as you say, I think he's a quality player. He's only 23. He's scored over 30 goals in the last 2 seasons. If you can get somebody with that impact and you can add a sort of finishing touch to them, you're looking at a quality player. I remember right back when Harry Kewell was the coach under Ange and then briefly under Brendan Rodgers at the first. When Maeda was on his warm-up, Kewell stayed out with him and they practiced crossing for 10-15 minutes before the game. It's obviously you're not going to pick up someone of Nygren's quality for 1.7 million without them having flaws. But it's whether Brendan Rodgers can develop that and bring it on to take him to the next level, then that's the most important bit.
Yeah, interesting thing is you mentioned Kewell. Dyson actually referenced Harry Kewell in his interview the other day, which was briefly touched on in the Scottish press. But I watched the full interview the other day, and he actually mentioned that Kewell was one of the guys that he credits with really improving his all-round game.
You can see that. Sorry.
What was that interview about, Liam? Why was he dressed like a boy band member in a white studio with a white shirt and all of that one? What was that all about?
It's just the Japanese thing. They always get people, like celebrities are always dressed very casually when they go, and it's basically like kind of I'm trying to think what I can't think of an appropriate equivalent in Britain or Scotland, but it's just like the presenter's dressed down, the guest dressed down, and it's just 2 guys sitting there having a blether. That's kind of the idea of it.
It was like an East 17 video. There's one. There's a reference for the kids there. I noticed early in the season, Liam, and that, and with the players that were being linked with, but I just think until Rodgers commits or doesn't commit, we're not going to see what we want to see. And these guys that we are being linked with seem like players that we're buying. Doesn't matter who the manager's going to be. Doesn't matter. We're bringing in. I mean, the Inamura one's not worrying, but you're saying, well, he's only played 33 games. When a guy like yourself, who has got knowledge of Japanese football, is going, I do not understand this move, then it's a wee bit of a red flag for me. The boy Osmond from Fulham, again, potential. There is potential there. I just have a look at this. Go, these guys are bringing in because they fit a profile for the club, and that Nygren fits a profile for the club as well, as everybody's saying. Absolutely fantastic money for a guy that's got as a full Swedish internationalist.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're having a look at it, and I'm going like that. Well, he doesn't really fit in the way that we play. He has got the attributes that we would look for a player. He can break down low-lying defences and stuff like that. And it takes me back to, I'm just going, these didn't seem like Rodgers type guys. Tierney feels like a Rodgers type guy, but these guys don't. And
I think what you're going to see is there's going to be quite a few sort of mixed bag within the signings. We never go out and just sign 7, 8, 9 million pound players extensively. It's never the case that we go and just sign these players. You always look back at a transfer window and you go, why did we sign him? Why did we sign Liam Shaw? Why did we sign Uragidi? Why did we sign these guys? Even now you're looking at it going, why did we sign Kwon? Why did we sign Tillio, etc.? You're looking at it going, why are we adding to that? There's always sort of bits of the transfer window where we're just taking punts and hoping that happens. For me, I still think that is quality players that Celtic have been linked with that could come in and be first choice players, Nygren being one of them. And I think if we continue down the route that we seem to be going with Balakishwa, then he's another one who could come in and make an impact right away. His form towards the end of the season for Royal Antwerp was impressive. Yes, okay, he's another one that's had some injury concerns, but he's someone that could come in and make a big impact. If we continue our interest in Lennon Miller, then it's another one that's a big key first-team signing. But for me, I still think we need to sort out the back line. Kieran Tierney coming in is excellent. He's a 15, 20 million pound player, and we managed to get him for free because he's a Celtic man that wanted to come home when his contract was done. But if you were talking about him moving and he still had a couple of years on his Arsenal contract, they'd be looking for about 15, 20 million pound for him. I think we need a centre half and we need a backup right back, and that's just to start off. The defence needs to be strengthened because when you take one or two of the first team players out of it, it looks so much weaker.
I mean, you have a look at it, the chances are that Anthony Ralston's going to start against St Mirren because of Alistair Johnston's involvement in the Gold Cup, depending on how far Canada go right enough. Colin's right with what he says there, Liam, but the headline here is clear the decks. Inamura and Osmond, I keep having to go and check his name. For me, are no clearing the decks. They're just added to the fat that we've got in the squad. And it's going to be extremely difficult to clear the decks with some of the wages that these guys are actually on. And what I'm looking for, I'm looking for a squad of maybe about 21, 22 elite players that can walk into that first team. And apart from Nygren, the other two just seem to actually be squad bloaters. And I think we've already got enough of them, truthfully. They might be better.
Balakisha is another game changer if we get that deal done. Him and Nygren both are first team players in my opinion. Obviously Kieran Tierney is a first team player, so that's 3 new additions to the first team, I think, and then you've got a couple of potentials on top of that. It's no ideal, but it's better than previous seasons, let's be honest. And I'm aware we're getting towards the end of the show here, right? So I just want to try and put out something here to put a positive spin on things, right? How annoyed would you be if you were a Rangers fan thinking about Celtic's transfer dealings recently, right? In the last 5 years, we've let our 2 best players essentially go out on loan for a few years, got them both back and banked about 40 million profit in the process. when you account for Tierney and Jota, that's...
You would be annoyed, but also for a club point of view, why did we let our star man, the talisman of the club, leave in January and no replace him? It probably cost us a treble.
Kyogo wanted away long before that, and I think, I don't doubt the wee man would have given his all if we'd made him stay beyond January, but I don't think we would have got the best of him.
I think whoever's advised Kyogo's made a complete arse of it. The fact that he's now been linked with a move to Birmingham after a sort of failed spell in France, he must be looking at who's representing him and going, how did we end up in this position? He's never going to get near a Japan squad like that.
I can offer a wee bit of insight into that from what I know. Basically, one of Kyogo's representatives is also the representative of Hajime Moriyasu, the Japan national manager, who I think, I'm on record as he's a guy I do not have much time for. I think he's an idiot.
He's up there because
been trying very hard not to swear there. But he basically bullied Kyogo's representatives into telling Kyogo, if you don't get away for Celtic, I'm not going to pick you for Japan. So Kyogo gets the move to Rennes. Then he gets one cap. He gets called up once by Moriyasu, and then that's it. Moriyasu's like, well, I filled my end of the bargain. You got a game for Japan. So Moriyasu is a complete fool, and he's the one who's engineered all of this. Kyogo is stupid for falling for it, but it's all on Moriyasu, as far as I'm concerned.
I think Paul Johns played more minutes at Celtic Park than what Kyogo played in France in the last 6 months. And that's saying something. That was a complete waste of a move for him. But just going back, I know we're kind of just about over time, but it's Friday. It's extra time Friday. The move for the boy from Fulham, Kev, that's one of those ones where it could either go extremely well or he's going to fade off into obscurity. But he's someone who was offered another deal at Fulham, turned it down. He was wanted by some of the English sides down there as well, and he's decided to bite the bullet and move up to Scotland. For me, he obviously thinks his ability is good enough to get him into that Celtic squad, and I like that about players. I like that they think they're good enough to come and be here.
Colin, of course, because as I always say, and maybe this is just me biased, but if you do Celtic well, Celtic will be the best club you'll ever play for.
Absolutely. And I think that he will be someone who is wanting a challenge for that jersey. And if he can go in and impress in pre-season, he'll get himself minutes. We're just speaking about getting players and getting this squad up to a level. If he was to be at Fulham, you would have seen and stayed at Fulham for another couple of seasons. You'd have probably seen him a couple of years down the line getting this £5-6 million move to some championship team, and he might have went on to do something like Liam Delap's done and make a name for himself. But instead, he's took that gamble and came up here to try and prove himself. He could be a Jeremy Frimpong or he could be a Ben Hutchison. It's going to go one or two ways.
You just gave me PTSD there. Mention that guy's name.
It's going to go one or two ways. But if he gets in there and he's the third choice striker, it's a tick in the box for what Rodgers has been wanting. He's been wanting a young third choice striker to bring him on. And I just hope that he gets the chance to make that impact and not the way Johnny Kenny was treated over the last sort of 12 months where he came back and, okay, he got on in the cup final and took his penalty, but he was never really an option for Celtic. He was there to make up the numbers on the bench at the time. And I will say just briefly, congratulations to young Isaac English, who made his move to Celtic yesterday. A good boy for down this way. Was impressing well for the Morton under-18s who won their development league last year, and he's going to play for the B team this year. So it's Morton's first transfer fee in 11 years. 11 years it's taken them to get a transfer fee.
I think that shows you everything that's wrong with Scottish football, if that's the first transfer fee that they've got 11 years. P. McLaughlin tells us that Craig Bellamy advised Osman to go to Celtic. So maybe we could have Mr. Bellers to actually thank if we actually get a bit of a gem there. Let's have a wee look at the comments.
Well, he is Welsh, this boy, isn't he? So that would make sense.
Mm-hmm. I was going to bring up that comment take on the boy we've just signed for Morton. You being a Greenock man, I was going to actually ask you about him.
Yep.
Johnny Contagious. Where is that banger of an Acsom host who suggested selling Maeda in case he regresses, but also wanted to give Palmer another 6 months? I did mention...
Right, all right, it's still been the best show today, but let's not throw other people under the bus, right? Come on.
Well,
this is on us.
I'm the banger who did actually say that my worry was Maeda, that last season Maeda was his peak. That is my worry. I think that's a normal worry. But no way did I say I wanted Palmer back. No way whatsoever did I say I wanted Palmer back. So I'll take one half of the bangerism in that. But definitely not the other one. I think Palmer's boat has definitely sailed. And Maestro 95, do you think other players in the squad are wanting a move that we don't know about? I think that is guaranteed. There's guys in that squad who will move, and I would probably point to Cameron Carter-Vickers being one of them. Just a wee inkling that I've got there that Cameron Carter-Vickers could be one that could be agitating for a move. And I think I'll leave the last comment to Kaiser. The Japanese national coach is a walloper.
Preach, Kaiser, preach.
Right, thank you for everybody putting up with me, and thank you to Colin and Liam for making this far easier for me. Want to thank everybody in the comments, even those who have been taking the mickey. I'm happy with that. I'm quite chuffed with that. And just remember, everybody, don't be bams to each other, and I'll speak to you all later. Cheers, hail, hail.